Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Tantra's Mantra, where we go behind and beyond the tech news headlines. I'm your host, Prakash Sangam, founder and principal at Tantra Analyst. I'm sure most of you have heard about the recent Galaxy Unpacked event. It was held both online as well as in person in Brooklyn, New York. Samsung usually announces its yearly foldable product refresh during this event, and this year, it was a time for category defining Galaxy Z Fold7, Galaxy Z Flip 7, as well as the first time ever Galaxy Z Flip 7 FE Fan Edition and the Galaxy Watch 8 series. I was fortunate enough to attend the event in person. Also, have posted my blog recapping the event and analyzing the announcements and such. I'll include a link to that in the description of the podcast. I highly recommend you to check it out. So, the hero of this year's event was undoubtedly Galaxy Z Fold 7 because of many reasons. It's unbelievably thin and light with a great camera system, excellent SoC, Galaxy AI, and a whole slew of features which rival any of the flagship smartphones out there in the market today. But when you unfold it, it transforms into a 8-inch tablet with beautiful display. I would say it's a tablet disguised as a flagship phone. It wouldn't be wrong to call Z Fold 7 S25 Ultra, folded or unfolded, whichever you want to call it. I'm testing a review unit for the last couple of weeks and blown away by it. I'll be posting my review soon, so be on the lookout for that. Most importantly, Fold 7 is a great productivity device, just like any other folds, and it is squarely targeted at the enterprise market. I've been using Fold since Fold 4, and for the first time with Fold 7, we have something that users can use it, especially enterprise users, without any compromises. What do I mean by that? Well, it's exactly the same, similar, I would say, as a flagship phone. So, in terms of size, weight, camera quality, and so on. So you don't have to compromise in anything except you get this excellent tablet like features and tablet like experience, and which you can do for many productivity things. I think one hurdle still remains, which is its price. It's priced at around $1,900, $100 more than the previous version, and that has to be managed somehow, especially for the enterprise market. To discuss that, as well as Samsung's overall B2B enterprise strategy and business, we have with us today Tyler Gipson, head of mobile B2B sales at Samsung America. Tyler, welcome to the show.
Hey, Prakash, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Sure. So let's get started. First, about illustrious career in telecom industry. You spent a lot of time at Cisco, managing AT&T account, I guess, and you moved to Samsung about 2 years ago. Tell us about your journey and how was the transition from selling networking gear to smartphones and devices.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Like you said, I'm just a little shy of 2 years at Samsung, and
Yeah.
when I came over, I came over to take the B2C role, running our AT&T partnership. Had an amazing 18 months doing that, and then on April
Hmm.
1st this year, they asked me to come back and run the B2B side, where I spent a lot of my career in that side of the business, and so I'm about just over a
Hmm.
quarter into that, and eager to talk to you about that today. But as you mentioned, prior to that was 23 years at Cisco, really across all forms of business, carrier, networking, IT, B2B, et cetera.
Hmm.
So really happy to kind of put that all together in this new role.
Perfect. Samsung is such a popular consumer brand, right? But in my view, it's not yet recognized as an enterprise leader. You have lots of products and services that you sell to, but people don't really recognize it as a market leader. Do you agree with that assessment? If so, or if not, what's your view on the reasoning behind it, and how you plan to change that?
Well, I think there's no question Samsung as a brand on its own is a highly recognized brand. And to
Mm-hmm.
your point, in the consumer space, we make amazing products, whether it be mobile or appliances or home entertainment, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so I think maybe a little lesser known secret is exactly the amazing products we make in the enterprise
Mhm.
side of the things and for B2B clients. And, it's a challenge and opportunity for my team to get out and engage with our partners and our customers to kind of talk to them about how that comes together. And
Mhm.
so I can give you a little perspective as I'm again about a quarter in here. I kind of the good news and the thing I've been really intrigued about at Samsung and for salespeople and sales leaders, this is an amazing problem to have. But
Mhm.
we make so many devices, and
Yep.
when you all the consumer devices you mentioned, the S25, where we'll talk about folds today, flips and folds today, et cetera. But when you look at just the B2B perspective,
Uh-huh.
we make a set of ruggedized products,
Yep.
whether it be phones or tablets, right? That go into, whether government, manufacturing, trucking, et cetera, things that need a little more rugged devices. Those are very specific
Mhm.
for our B2B customers. Or if you look in the regulated and federal space,
Yeah.
we make what we call a tactical edition for the government to be
Yep.
able to deploy it, or a healthcare edition for our healthcare customers. And so I kind of look at it kind of a Venn diagram, if you kind of think about it. On the left side, amazing set of good
Mhm.
consumer phones, tablets, PCs, wearables. On the right, some of the devices I just talked about, and then kind of the center of it all.
Yeah.
You think about Knox, which is more than a decade in development now,
Mhm.
and really is how we enable our business customers to deploy and manage and secure and customize
Mhm.
all these devices. And then we've put together something we call Enterprise Edition,
Mhm.
which brings now that consumer device, whether it be an S25 or Fold or whatever,
Yeah.
plus Knox, and gives you an integrated experience for customers to kind of be able to roll that out the door on day one using Knox and those devices. And so I'd sum it up by saying, if you look at the landscape out there, it
Mhm.
really just is our opportunity to make sure our partners and customers know all of that and understand all that, because where we've been engaged with customers, we're highly successful.
Yeah.
As we have a set of tools, I think, that are very different than our competitors, right? Kind
Yeah.
of when you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail,
Yeah.
right? And as you go talk to customers, you try to sell hammers. We go in and say, tell me about your problem. Let's talk about what the solutions are, and that could be anything from a $200 device to a $1,999 device, right? That you talked about today, and I think we can kind of help enable them to achieve their business outcomes when you look at that.
Yeah, I think the ruggedized device thing, it's pretty interesting, right? So far, it was either you have ugly looking devices or you put ugly cover on a consumer device and then make it ruggedized. But I think with Samsung coming in, you're bringing looks to it as well, right? And people, although it has to be very highly utilitarian, but also doesn't hurt to make it look good so that people can love using it and love the experience as well, right? So that's, I think, is a remarkable thing from Samsung point of view. And then we'll talk about Knox a little bit, but I agree that you guys are doing a great job in making Knox known to the enterprise, its value, and so on. How has this Samsung Mobile's enterprise B2B strategy in the US has evolved over the years? I mean, and with you at the helm now, what do you see some of the major challenges? And of course, as you mentioned, there are tons of opportunities, right?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, I think the overall technology and mobility landscape is evolving quickly, as you
Hmm.
know. And so if I just kind of look at maybe where it's been over the last year or two, there's certainly been a journey and an evolution on Samsung's part to pivot from, very hardware centric, device centric sales of like, hey, here's my phone, here's my tablet, Mr. Customer, and you figure out what you do with it. To one of, how do I put solutions together and kind of put a wrapper around the amazing products we sell to really help our business customers digest and use it. And we talked about a few examples there at front. More rugged devices like a rugged tablet to go with a rugged phone, or
Hmm.
specific vertical kind of things
Yeah.
with health use cases and et cetera. And so wrapping that together, and then the journey my team's been on that I'm kind of inheriting and walking into the middle of, and that I'm super excited about and continue to just really double down on, is how do we put those solutions together that Samsung controls, but
Hmm.
also work with our partners, whether those partners are third party software companies, whether they're third party hardware mounting companies, whether there's VARs, distributors, or carriers. But like, how do we bring that whole package together in a solution format to provide the business outcome that our customers want?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that does a couple things. One, it makes it easier to have that conversation with the customers.
Mm-hmm.
And it also gives us a little bit of scale when those partners know we're in it with them to help, provide a win-win outcome for everybody. And so you'll see a continued focus from me on that. I'm actually getting ready to head out Monday. We'll see 4 partners in 3 days,
Mm-hmm.
and as well as another customer. I'll be on the road the following week seeing one of our major carrier partners. And so just will be a huge focus on me on how we continue to engage with the industry,
Mm-hmm.
with our customers. And I think the other thing you'll see kind of shaping the industry, and this there's no secret about this, but AI.
Yeah.
um, AI is going to continue to shape this industry in a big way. We feel like we've led that way in mobility with the introduction of Galaxy AI and S24,
Uh-huh.
more than 18 months ago. And now that we're in our third iteration, it really provides us an opportunity to have conversations with customers, both on lessons learned and kind of what we recommend, and then what we see the future of the industry being, and how we could.
Yeah, cool. And Z Fold 7 comes at a critical juncture, right? How does that fit with your overall B2B strategy? I think I'm sure it's a major part of it for at least this year and next.
Yeah, I tell you, and you did a good job, describing it in the beginning. We couldn't be more excited about both the Flip and the Fold, but specifically the Fold 7
Mm-hmm.
this year. And you really have to see it and touch it to believe it.
Mm-hmm.
And well, if I use 3 words to describe it, I'd say the Ultra unfolds, which was part of our tagline at Unpacked. And
Yeah.
you really have to kind of look under that of what that means. It's kind of one thing that's easy to say, but given we're in the seventh generation
Mm-hmm.
of folds, we obviously pioneered this category.
Yep.
But I would argue, and I think that most people would agree, that this 7th generation is probably the biggest revolution that we've had in the foldable category. And so what we produced this year was a phone that is thinner,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
A little bit over half millimeter thicker than the S25 Ultra,
Yeah.
right? So very similar to one of the flagship bar phones. It's lighter than the previous Fold and similar to bar type phones.
Yeah.
Yet, and it's stronger. We continue to reinforce hinges, screens, etc. Because obviously at a $1,999 price point, customers want to be sure in that the device is going to be strong and durable.
Yep.
And so, yet we were able to put a better camera, a better battery, and a bigger cover screen on it. And so, you really do have this bar type phone that unfolds now, right?
Yeah.
I think over the years, one of the things we do really, really well on the consumer and very much on the business side is listen to our customers and iterate on the year over year products that we release. And so some of those things we heard were, hey, it's a flagship workhorse productivity device in the enterprise, but I'm kind of missing that flagship camera I want.
Yeah.
Or I need to make sure the battery lasts longer because I use the device so much. Or I want to be able to use the front screen in normal mode until I got to unfold it to use it for something else. And so we fixed all of that with this Fold 7. And I think the sky's the limit in terms of now how we engage with our customers,
Mm-hmm.
because the use case of, hey, I could convert 2 devices into one,
Yeah.
tablet, phone. It's always been there, but again, we always had to kind of walk through that of that discussion of exactly what you need out of that phone versus the tablet. Now there's really no sacrificing it, right?
Yep.
6.5-inch front screen, uses as a normal phone, 8-inch unfolded tablet.
Mm-hmm.
You can use it for all the workhorse stuff you need. So we're very excited about that. And then, we can talk about kind of how we're engaging with customers in various use cases and kind of what.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, let's do that. So, as I mentioned, I mean, I agree, no compromises. I mean, when I carried earlier, I had Fold 6 and 4. You will know you are carrying a Fold because it's pulling it down and you put it in your pocket. Right now, you don't even feel that. It's like carrying any other phone, right? Any other flagship. So, 100% agree with you there. I think, as I mentioned, price point, I mean, there is definitely value for it, but price point is still a hurdle in my view. Are you working with carriers and enterprises in trying to soften that, maybe distribute that load into for a longer duration, or in terms of volume and discounts and such? Anything that you can share with us on that?
Yeah, I think before we kind of dive into that, maybe I could kind of lay out what we're hearing from our customers in terms of yes, price is always a concern for any customer buying anything
Uh-huh.
these days, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's $800, $1,100, or $2,000, it's what we're able to talk to customers about specifically with Fold
Mm-hmm.
is one, what I mentioned before, this two-in-one use case, maybe even a three-in-one use case, right?
Yeah.
Given we support Dex, which is our desktop experience,
Mm-hmm.
could you even get rid of a PC? You probably need that somewhere in your life, but for an everyday use,
Yeah.
let me give you an example. Me going on the road next week,
Yeah.
I could probably work most of that time, with my Fold on the road.
Yeah.
Now, I'm probably not going to want to sit down and do a 30-page PowerPoint presentation. That's
Yeah.
probably where I need a PC somewhere in my life.
Yeah.
But outside of that, I could use the Fold. So then you kind of
Mm-hmm.
go in with these CTOs and CIOs and these line of business owners,
Uh-huh.
and you hear a couple things.
Yeah.
One, just how do I make my employees more effective and efficient and productive?
Uh-huh.
But also, how do I give them a better experience,
Yeah.
right, with,
Yeah.
with the devices I give them? Two, what we're hearing a lot, and specifically in the retail space, is how do I provide a better customer engagement and satisfaction?
Mm-hmm.
And how do I free all my employees up, whether it be a frontline worker or a manager in the store? How do I free them to be on the floor more, engaging with the retail associates and their customers? And so, or we've engaged with those discussions, the TCO at that point and the business outcome at that point more than takes care of itself.
Mm-hmm.
It's certainly important that we partner with all of our partners, whether, no matter what the route to market is.
Mm-hmm.
Where we've seen, a partnership with specific carriers where we're always working with them to make sure we have good, promotional pricing on devices.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that seems to work very well with us. And then where we really work well together is when we can both go into an account
Mm-hmm.
and say, hey, what's this look like on a 2 or 3 year contract, and really make sure that we're being effective in terms of the customers, kind of TCO that they're looking for. And we can usually manage the outcome for that. And so we've seen a lot of good examples. One being a sport, one of the largest sporting good retailers in the US,
Mm-hmm.
which is that exact case I just kind of walked through. Like, how do I make the employees more productive,
Mm-hmm.
more visible, more engaging on the floor? And then how do I reduce some of the devices to make sure that the TCO works?
Yeah, sure.
And then another one may be, and several industries have people out in the field, whether it's sales folks like myself or my team. But when you look at like healthcare and home hospitality, is
Mm-hmm.
another great example.
Yeah.
We another very large deal we won last year was with the home healthcare company. That when they go into the home, not only do they have a lot of communication devices, a tablet, a PC, a phone, maybe even a pager,
Mm-hmm.
they also have a lot of medical devices, right?
Yeah.
So you can imagine the more we can simplify that for them,
Yeah.
the better it is for them, and the more they're freed up to focus on patient care
Mm-hmm.
than what device am I using for what function, right? And
Yeah.
so again, that's when you kind of see the TCO and the overall business case really outweigh kind of any price point discussion.
Okay. And are you working on any case studies, or working with industry leaders and such, to illustrate and kind of quantify this productivity gains, right? Especially for the enterprise personas that you mentioned, and also sales folks, road warriors, and such, right? So my point is, and of course people understand the value of foldable, or a value of a tablet in the form of a standard smartphone, but for them to really jump into it and make it a major device for these personas in the enterprises, a report or a case studies that they can really rely on and even learn from, frankly, would be helpful, right? Are you planning of anything of that sort?
Yeah, and I just referenced two very real world ones,
Uh-huh.
but what we're trying to do a little better job of is been able to talk about those publicly, or maybe even do some co events of where we kind of present some of these findings. And so that's both a challenge and opportunity for us just to kind of document these things a little bit better make sure they're heard from our partner community and other customers in similar verticals.
Mm-hmm.
So as we hold these events around the U.S., we pulled a bunch of retail customers together that were able to exchange kind of notes and on how they were using this device and other devices. Early this year in New York,
Mm-hmm.
we'll do our frontline summit, frontline workers summit in 3 or 4 weeks in California. Again, we'll pull together similar like-minded people where we have discussions about their specific vertical,
Yeah.
and you'll see us do that across really all verticals throughout the year. And so I'd say, as we do those, it's just incumbent on us to be really clear about how other customers are using our technology and what those use cases are. And so we do that okay. We need to do it a little bit better. Just can see us continue to exercise that muscle in some of these events I just talked about.
Yeah, yeah, I highly encourage you guys to do a little bit more of marketing. I mean, not just for the not advertising, but illustrating and quantifying those gains so that they can take back to their CFOs and show that there is value in it. Even it's an expensive device. So cool, cool. And you talked about partnerships and partners, right? As part of your strategy. So are you working specifically on these foldables to show the value, maybe applications, use cases, even using this your enterprise edition, software layer to make it more useful for enterprises than it already is? Anything on that side?
Yeah, one of the things we did. So you were at Unpacked, and you obviously got to see Unpacked, and it was an amazing event.
Yep.
Probably what wasn't as public is we hosted a business focused viewing event actually in our Dallas
Mm-hmm.
executive briefing center, where we brought various carrier partners,
Mm-hmm.
VARs, and some customers together
Yeah.
so they could get the hands-on experience, which we got a lot of great feedback on.
Mm-hmm.
And we just need to do more of, especially with this kind of device, of getting it in your hands
Yep.
really start to convince you.
Yeah.
But then we do need to show sort of this path to how you use Knox, this path to how you use Dex, like all these things that are very helpful as you use our devices and our tool, but maybe a little bit less known. And so
Yeah.
where we've had that opportunity, we've had a lot of good feedback. And our plan is just to do more of that and be more focused on making sure the business message
Yeah.
comes along with some of our big event moments that are usually in the first and second half of the year, and make sure we just have the business message to go with it.
Yeah, yeah. And also you mentioned about this replacing couple of other devices. I think that's an important fact. A lot of people, don't realize as well. And also I tweeted about it. And using a foldable, in my case, at least, it increases the battery life of my laptop because I don't have to open my laptop as much, especially when traveling, right? So I mean, it's a time saver as well as, a secondary benefit of owning this, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And an improved battery, obviously just gives a longer life to it during the day as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. So now coming to the Flip 7, I mean, it's an attractive consumer device. A lot of people starting to like the foldable, especially again going back to no compromise. You get an exactly same experience as a bar phone standard flagship, but it's much smaller and easy to manage now. So, how do you see the market for that in enterprise specifically? And I was actually surprised to hear the Dex support for Flip 7. I'm thinking you have some use cases and others for enterprises with Dex on it.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, you're right. Flip 7 is a lesser adopted business device.
Yeah.
But actually, I think and I'll give you a couple use cases we have, but I think the addition of Dex is actually genius
Mhm.
on introducing that with Flip. And here's why. To your point, that's more about the compactability, the pocketability, and just the kind of convenient form factor,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And we've seen some real world use cases where we've worked with, for example, police departments that
Mhm.
use a Flip as a body worn camera,
Okay.
right?
Mhm.
And with Knox, it can integrate some of their software systems. It can trigger the camera to come on in high speed chases and things of that nature.
Mhm.
However, I don't envision a police officer sitting out there filling out a report on the Flip, quite frankly,
Yeah.
or an Excel sheet or something.
Yeah.
But with Dex
Mhm.
and the other use case we've seen with police departments, not with Flip specifically, but with laptop replacement in police cars.
Uh-huh.
We've replaced laptops with S25s
I see.
previously,
I see.
where they dock in the police car and use DeX
I
to
see.
then have that desktop-like experience.
Uh-huh.
And so now with the flip, you could see the very same use case of very convenient form factor to use, but able to dock, whether it be a police station or anything else, police car or anything else,
Mm-hmm.
to then get that desktop experience. And I don't know if you've ever used DeX, but it really is as simple as plugging it into a monitor, having a Bluetooth keyboard, and use it as a desktop like experience, right?
Yeah.
And so I,
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious to see. We're obviously going to be out talking to those same kind of vertical use cases about the addition of Dex to Flip, and we're excited. We're excited about it.
Yeah, I mean, Dex I used not as much as I should, but it's pretty useful device. And frankly, I don't think you sell that enough, in my view. The value of it, especially where you like the use case you mentioned. There are many where you need the larger screen and keyboard and other things. Not most of the time, but you need it when you need it. But you also want a smaller form factor. I think there are many use cases for DeX. In my view, I think you should sell that a little bit more into the enterprises. A lot of people I speak to, they might have heard about it, but not really actively using it, unless other than the specific use cases you mentioned.
Yeah, I listen. I can't argue with you. Maybe I'll have you come talk to my sales team. But they do a good job of it.
Yeah,
I think it is a little bit more of a show and tell
yeah,
thing,
yeah,
because once you see how easy it
yeah,
is, and you don't even have to explain
yeah.
what you're talking about. And so it's just an opportunity for us to educate our partners, to make sure they're fully versed into it, to make sure that we have customers that fully understand how to use it. And you're right. We need to do a little better job of getting that message out there.
Yeah, and I'm a power user of phone link and connecting your PC, because a lot of times I'm working from my desk laptop, and then I don't want to keep looking at my phone all the time, so I use phone link, Windows Phone all the time, and Dex can be a replacement for that, because phone links works okay, but it's very slow. A lot of times, if you're working pictures and others, it's very hard to work with that. So I think Dex can be a very powerful tool when you are looking to use PC and phones together, which is many cases in my view. Not alone using phone with the keyboard, right? So yeah, I think there is a lot of scope for that if you explore. Yeah, and Knox, you talked about it, and I'm sure you're doing decent job with promoting and such, and it can be kind of a beachhead for you into enterprise services business, right? I mean, it gives secure access for the enterprises to all the functions on the phone and so on. Anything that you can share on how you're looking to evolve this?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say a couple things.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I got a lot of things to say about Knox. I also think where customers know how to use it, where we've engaged with them on how we help them solve their needs.
Mm-hmm.
Knox is a home run for them, but I also think that's something we need to do a little better job of being loud
Yeah.
about, because as you know, the number one discussion for just about any business these days is security. Well,
Yeah.
AI and security,
Yeah. Yeah.
but security,
Yeah.
right? And Knox is over a decade in the making.
Mm-hmm.
Something we built from the ground up. It secures our devices from the chip up, right? So you got multi-layer security,
Yeah.
and we see customers using it to deploy, manage, secure, configure, customize devices out there. And really,
Mm-hmm.
it really puts the power of the devices to our customers' hands on how they use Knox, right?
Yeah.
And so as AI sort of evolved, one of the first questions we received was, well, tell me about how the data resides, what your data governance process is. And so
Mm-hmm.
we could really lean on some of the experiences we've gotten from Knox, and really talk to the CSOs of the world, about how we secure the device and make sure they're comfortable with it. And we should probably talk about AI a little bit more in terms of on device and in cloud, because that's also something unique. But for Knox, I will say that we've seen a lot of success. We'll continue to evolve it over the years. One of the things we're doing, what we did
Mm-hmm.
earlier this year, is sort of like a lot of software companies that have matured in their buying models.
Mm-hmm.
Knox has a lot of different features and functions in it.
Mm-hmm.
And quite honestly, the way you procured it was a little, by individual features or functions. What we introduced this year was the
Mm-hmm.
Knox Suite plans.
Mm-hmm.
So if you think about that kind of in the context of some of the larger software players, we're really trying to introduce a software platform that our businesses
Mm-hmm.
can consume as they need it. So whether it's the essential plan or the enterprise plan, it just provides customers kind of this flexibility
Mm-hmm.
to buy and use as they need, but then have the power of Knox that they need to expand it as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're actually really excited about just kind of getting some of our procurement models down to
Mm-hmm.
make it easier for the customers to buy and absorb and deploy.
Mm-hmm.
Because once they absorb and deploy it, we see a high level of satisfaction with it, right? And
Yeah.
so it's another one that we demonstrated at the business viewing I talked about earlier, the kind of the power of Knox, and
Mm-hmm.
we heard a lot of good feedback from our customers.
Okay.
And there's some really neat things you can do with it beyond just the security, right? There's when we talk about using it to do kind of a kiosk mode.
Yeah.
So if you ever walked into really any business, S&B, a restaurant, et cetera,
Mm-hmm.
where they have a tablet, but it's basically locked down for the one thing they want to show you, maybe a menu or maybe a catalog of something or some check-in interface.
Yeah.
That's usually using Knox mode on a Samsung tablet to do that. And
Mm-hmm.
so there's a ton of possibilities out there that it's actually really fun to go have these conversations with customers to show them what we can actually help them do.
Yep.
And then I'll say just the last thing. I told you I could say a lot on Knox.
Mm-hmm.
The last thing is the other thing you saw us do earlier this year was announce partnerships and integrations with companies like a Microsoft
Mm-hmm.
or even a Cisco with their zero trust networking framework, or Microsoft with Intune, to make sure that we embed in that and that customers can use their current security platform,
Uh-huh.
integrate with Knox, and then see the endpoints like our devices and now even our watches, which is the first time ever
Uh-huh.
that Knox can manage a watch
Yeah.
like an endpoint.
Yeah.
And again, if you're an enterprise, you want to be able to see and secure everything, and we think that's going to be really important as wearables continue to grow.
So yeah, I'll get into wearables quickly. And before that, so you talked about AI. I did not want to bring in the front because it's already hyped enough, right? But it does have a lot of applications. But right now, if you look at Galaxy AI, I have used it and I wrote an article about it as well. A lot of it consumer focused. Be it editing pictures, getting your briefs, and so on. How do you see the use of Galaxy AI in enterprises? I mean, what are some of the use cases now they are doing or looking at it, or how do you see that evolving in the future?
Yeah, it's fun. It certainly started from and is I think we lead with consumer features on Galaxy AI
Yeah.
for sure. But a couple things you're seeing us do on Galaxy AI as we evolve here. And
Mhm.
so we actually did this before the previous unpack, but earlier this year
Mhm.
we introduced Samsung business accounts for Galaxy AI. Previously, we just used the consumer, the individual's Samsung account.
Okay.
And of course, businesses need their own business accounts to roll out to their employees,
Mhm.
not the individuals or the consumers, but their employees,
Mhm.
to effectively have them to be able to use Galaxy AI and have hooks and controls on it, right? So we
Yeah.
rolled that out, and that was a response directly to all of our businesses, all the feedback that we heard from them of, hey, I need a business specific account structure
Mhm.
to roll out and enable AI. So we did that earlier this year.
Okay.
And then when you look at some of the use cases that sort of started as consumer. So think like we talk a lot about multimodal or
Mhm.
cross app kind of action, if you will, of in the consumer world, it was like, hey, how could I schedule a reservation for tonight at 7 o'clock with Prakash and have it send him an invite?
Mhm.
If you kind of translate over that into the business world, we're on the very early stages of just kind of talking about how we integrate our AI
Mhm.
with businesses' workflows,
Yeah.
right? Because they've got their own workflows built out. They're doing a lot of their own AI. We're going to need to integrate with them. And so, as a part of that, and some of these sort of more strategic engagements, you're seeing us start to open up an SDK into our AI so that we can work with some of these customers to figure out kind of what those workflows look like.
Hmm.
So a lot of it's a little bit sort of very nuanced in the business world, but we take the best practices from the consumer side and sort of apply it to the business side of things, and that's what we've been really good at.
Yeah.
And I think continue to be good at of engaging with customers. All right, how do you exactly need this to work in your environment?
Yeah.
And so we're just excited with those possibilities. And then I'll wrap with the one thing you've probably seen this now with the Fold.
Hmm.
We now allow side by side editing,
Yeah.
right, which is an AI feature. We have this notion of this flex AI window that kind of floats around on your device, so that that 8-inch tablet, you got a lot of real estate, so you could be
Yeah.
reading a document but have this flex AI window floating around to reference other documents or do searches or what have you. And so, really, just trying to make the form factor more usable with AI features,
Yeah.
and then doing a lot of development underneath to kind of make sure this multimodal framework works, and AI, workflow interaction with our customers, et cetera. So we feel like we're still in early stages, but we're having a lot of good conversations with customers that really are helping form our business roadmap.
Yeah. And with agentic AI getting some foothold in enterprises, I mean, enterprises still conflicted, I would say, not fully decided where those agents run. Is it in their private cloud or it's on the device? I know, but I think having a powerful NPU and powerful AI stack on the phone running securely, I think that's one of the key areas that enterprise would be looking at to run specific agents on the devices, enterprise devices. So I think there's a lot more to explore there. A quick suggestion: I talked to some of the Samsung folks at Unfold as well regarding this. On you mentioned about this floating windows on Fold when it is unfolded, right, in the tablet mode. I think a simple use of AI could be that right now you have to manually adjust these windows that are open, multiple windows on the screen. If you put some AI, a lot of times, if I am, say, for example, if I am trying to attach something to my email, and before that I want to check into my folders to find out where it is and what the attachment I have to put in. You have to do it manually, go from one app to other app or open that app on the screen and do it. That can be basically more these windows on the tablet screen can be AI managed, so that they pop up based on the need. The moment I write the email and say, here is my attachment, and then that app can trigger, knowing that, oh, there is an attachment coming. Probably this person wants to look at these files and others, and it opens the folders, my folders window, and so on. Right. So there's a lot of things you can do with Ford because of this larger screen. Is an example, right? So I agree with you. With AI growing, the tablet usage for enterprise will be even more useful going forward. And I think you're doing right thing by partnering with right partners to make sure they come up with application services that maximize that real estate. Okay, so you also mentioned about wearables. I mean, Samsung, I think the biggest differentiation you guys have compared to other OEMs is so many of your devices everywhere in homes and enterprises, and you have your own ecosystem and a lot of benefits you can have with that. And you recently bought this company as well, right? So X Health, what was it called? How are you looking to utilize Ford and the other Samsung devices with the wearables and with this acquisition? Put all of that together for us.
Yeah, the wearables is really an evolving category, and it does get pretty specific to the various verticals. I guess I'd start with
Mm-hmm.
just saying, we introduced Watch 8 this go around, which features kind of that circle and square bezel design, which I think really is a good looking watch in general. We introduced it with Ultra last year and
Yeah.
carried it forward with 8 this year.
Mm-hmm.
Also, is we announced as the first watch to actually have Gemini
Mm-hmm.
on your wrist,
Yeah,
right?
it's pretty
So
powerful. I mean, because a lot of
yeah.
times you cannot type, and a lot of things you want to do, you can just do ask AI to do it, and it's really very useful.
Yeah, exactly. And then, the other thing that we've done a good job of is partnering with other software providers or solutions to providers to deliver, this end-to-end use case to some of our customers. So, an example would be where we've engaged with fire departments.
Hmm.
We've partnered with third-party software providers that provide a software on the watch that do anything from geolocation to health, safety, team tracking, et cetera, so that in the moments of need, they had all that information on their wrist, and that command could see how everybody's looking from a team perspective in that manner.
Yeah.
Or in the other areas of attention and focus challenges, partnered with companies that now provide a software, on the watch, on the wrist of either students or other folks that need help with attention alertness, and kind of helping engage with them to make sure they're more attent throughout the day. And so that's where you're seeing a lot of this go with the wearable
Hmm.
community. And then there's evolving cases about even manufacturing quality
Hmm.
or man down, again tied to the watch, and
Yeah.
making sure that as it interacts from the frontline worker, that there's various algorithms that tell you if it's either man down or potentially if there's low job quality based on the KPIs it's pulling off. So the watch market we see is growing, more than 27% kind of year over year.
Hmm.
And I think there's a lot of possibilities out of this as businesses really want to, one, take care of their employees more, two, make sure that kind of all the KPIs that they're looking for their employees are being achieved. And so there's a lot out there, I think, but we're pretty happy with the recent launch and some of the partnerships that we've had.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, enterprise is all about data, right? So the more data you collect, and you can intelligently use it for many, many use cases. And that's why I think AI will shine in enterprises. So yeah, and the more inputs you have in terms of different devices used by the employees, and a huge IoT portfolio as well. So larger the ecosystem of devices that you can bring in, and they all can talk together and collect data, then enterprise can utilize data in very smart ways, right? And yeah, it's exciting new frontier they're looking at there. So cool. So you talked a lot about your future plans, but still, in terms of specifically talking about your goals for the next 5 years or so. So, what is your vision for Samsung B2B segment? For the next 5 years, and if you are on a podcast on mine, hopefully here in 2030, where do you think the market would be from your point of view, and what are some of the things we would be talking about? You think?
Oh man, I mean, that's a tough one. 5 years out, if I could predict that future, I don't know. I think I'd be a rich man. Listen, AI is going to continue to just evolve, right? And so I think that's exciting for all of us, and I do feel like Samsung, with sort of our history of how we've built and operated, meaning an open ecosystem, embracing partners, embracing multiple software applications, et cetera. That sort of
Mhm.
foundation, I think, lends itself very well to the future of where AI
Mhm.
is going. And because I don't know, there's not going to be one winner, and especially in the business world, everybody's going to adopt it
Yeah.
in a different way, and that really lends itself to
Mhm.
our strengths, right? Of kind of what we've talked about throughout the discussion here, of bringing in partners and building creative things and helping them solve solutions and integrating with their workflow. So that will continue to be a theme, and it's incumbent on my team and myself to
Mhm.
capitalize on that and make sure that the AI features we're building, that we're translating into business use cases and value. And so I think
Mhm.
that'll be one. And then, of course, just how people continue to engage with devices will evolve. We talked
Mhm.
about the flip a little bit. If you think about kind of this evolving, people would rather talk to their devices and then type with their devices and interact. I mean, that form factor on its own lends itself really well to that kind of AI
Mhm.
engagement. For me, at least for the second half of the
Mhm.
year here, just incumbent on my team and myself to make sure these use cases are
Mhm.
understood, as you said, both for our customers, our partners in the industry. And so that's something you'll see us heavily
Yeah.
focus on. And what 3 and 4 and 5 years brings. I'll probably defer those questions to TM Rowe, who's a much smarter person than I am on the future direction of some of this technology. But I'm excited to see where we go.
That was a great discussion, Tyler. Thank you very much for all of your insights and, of course, for coming over to Tantra's Mantra. Best of luck with your Z Fold 7, Flip 7, and Galaxy Watch 8 series rollout this next year. I would really love to see Fold 7 specifically become a widely used device and as an ultimate productivity tool in the enterprises.
Yeah, I agree. Prakash, thanks for the discussion. I appreciate the forum and the discussion, and happy to do it anytime.
Thank you. So, folks, that's all we have for now. Hope you found this discussion informative and useful. If so, please hit like and subscribe to the podcast on whatever platform you're listening this on. I'll be back soon with another episode, putting light on another interesting tech subject. Don't forget to check out my recapping of Galaxy Unpacked event and analyzing the announcements. I'll include the link there as I mentioned, and also be on the lookout for my Galaxy Z Fold 7 review very soon. With that, bye bye for now.